As Jenny stepped into the medical centre, the guard explained to the impossibly glamorous young receptionist, who looked like she'd just been thrown off the pages of Vogue, that Jenny had been found wandering in the wilderness, suffering from a nosebleed, and babbling on about needing to get to work. At the mention of work, he raised his hands and waggled his fingers in exaggerated air quotes, as though the very concept of work were absurd. Jenny frowned. Why is he saying it like that? The receptionist's expression flickered. Pity, amusement, a touch of alarm. It was hard to tell. "Oh, I see," she said smoothly. "I'll call the doctor." Everything fell off. It wasn't just how people were speaking, it was how they were looking at her, as though she was some kind of exhibit. Jenny was led into a small, pristine examination room, its sterility making her feel even more out of place. Outside, she heard the guard muttering to someone. "I'll get the female nurse. She could be one of those, extremist types." Jenny's stomach twisted. Extremist? What on earth did that mean? Then the nurse entered and Jenny's jaw nearly hit the floor. She was breathtaking, so polished. She made Marilyn Monroe look like the ugly cousin who only got invited to Christmas out of obligation. Her glossy blonde hair was swept back impeccably. Her makeup looked airbrushed onto her face, and her uniform, an immaculately tailored blue dress, hugged her like it had been designed for a high-end fashion show. And the shoes, no sensible Crocs or trainers. It was sleek black stilettos. It had been as if she stepped out of a boardroom and not a hospital ward. Jenny squinted at her feet. "Are those heels?" she blurted. "Can you actually walk in those?" The nurse laughed, a perfect tinkling sound that belonged in a perfume advert. "Black heels are policy here, Mrs. Baker." Jenny gawked. Even the nurse had an accent now. Crisp, refined, the sort of voice that sounded like it had spent its formative years attending a Swiss finishing school. And disturbingly, her breath smelled like a luxury car's air freshener. "You should be on the red carpet, not in here," Jenny muttered, still processing the sheer wrongness of it all. The nurse merely smiled, a polished, professional, slightly patronising smile, and gestured for Jenny to lie down. As she checked Jenny's vitals, she asked routine questions. "How many children do you have? I understand you're a manager of a company. What is your profession exactly?" Jenny explained her work-from-home life as a project manager, how she loved the flexibility, but somehow always ended up working more than she should. The nurse nodded, listening with a detached air of someone observing a species in the wild. Then she stepped outside, and through the thin walls, Jenny heard her speak to the doctor. "Vitals are stable, but she's exhibiting signs of delusion and confusion, likely sunstroke." A moment later, the doctor arrived. Middle-aged, calm, his manner efficient yet coolly detached. His presence didn't reassure her in the slightest. He examined her head for bumps and then, in a voice as smooth as butter on warm toast, asked her to recount her day. She did, explain how her car and phone had disappeared. As she spoke, he let out a faint, weary sigh, like a teacher realising a student had forgot their homework again. Before he could respond, there was a knock on the door. "The patient's husband is here," the glamorous nurse announced. Jenny exhaled in relief. "Oh, thank God, James." "He may enter," the doctor said. James entered, and Jenny's breath caught. What the hell? He had gained 20 pounds in a week. His face was fuller, his whole frame was somehow more substantial. But that wasn't the strangest part. It was the way he carried himself. It was straighter, stiffer, stern. His very presence felt heavier and more commanding. "Jesus, James, you look a bit chunky," she blurted out before she could stop herself. His eyes widened. Jenny clapped her hand over her mouth. Oh my God, that was so rude. James ignored the comment, his expression unreadable. His gaze flickered towards the doctor in a way that made Jenny uneasy. Jenny stood to hug him, but he stepped back. Instead of embracing her, he placed his hands firmly on her arms, guiding her back to the bed. His touch wasn't affectionate, it was controlling. "What's going on, Dr. Marshall? What has happened?" he asked, his tone urgent yet measured, as if discussing a problem rather than a person. The doctor sighed. "I believe she has sunstroke, some confusion, likely due to dehydration. She was found wandering, disorientated, after being in the sea. Claims her car's missing, her phone also. She insists she must return to work as a project manager." Again, that slight inexplicable emphasis on work. A minor nosebleed, but no signs of head trauma. I recommend taking her home, a cool bath to lower her core temperature, plenty of fluids. If symptoms persist tomorrow, just bring her back. As Jenny sat, her mind was a whirlpool of unease. James placed a hand on her shoulder. It was firm, authoritative. Come on, let's get you home. She nodded, still feeling that eerie, crawling sensation under her skin. Something is wrong. They left the centre and approached a red car. Jenny halted. Whose car is this? James gave her a smile that was meant to be reassuring, but felt too composed. It will all be okay, darling. Let's just get you home. His tone was patronising. Jenny gulped. Something was very, very wrong, but for now she bit her lip and stayed silent. When they returned home, everything felt, well, different. At first glance, it was the same house, same walls, same furniture, but something was undeniably amiss. It was too clean, not simply tidy, but unsettlingly pristine. No laundry waiting to be folded, no half-empty mugs abandoned on side tables, no socks or school bags tossed by the door. It was perfect, impossibly so. Jenny frowned. Have you tidied up? She asked James, regarding him with suspicion. He looked genuinely bemused. My dear, let's not trouble ourselves with such things. Come, allow me to help you get some rest. A cool bath and an early night will do you wonders. No need to worry about the children. Kathy has kindly agreed to collect them, to see to their needs. Jenny blinked. James did not talk like this, ever. He was the sort of man who referred to baths as a quick dip, and thought air drying was a perfectly acceptable alternative to towels. Still, Kathy was a neighbour and friend that offered a sliver of reassurance. Too tired to argue, Jenny simply nodded. After her bath, she slipped into bed and fell asleep almost at once, and when she woke and instinctively reached out for James, the space beside her was empty. Frowning, she crept downstairs and found him curled up on the sofa, breathing steadily, with a faint line of drool glistening at the corner of his mouth. She smiled. At least some things hadn't changed. And yet the house remained unnervingly immaculate. No signs of nightlife, no stray biscuit crumbs, no crumpled socks on the floor. Had James and Kathy undertaken a second deep clean while she slept? Perplexed but grateful, she tiptoed upstairs to wake the children. Everything in their rooms was eerily orderly, clothes folded with military precision, shoes lined up like soldiers, not a toy out of place. Had she really slept through an entire spring clean? Molly spotted her first. Mother, she cried, launching herself into Jenny's arms. George followed, oddly formal. Ah, you have returned. Splendid. He gave her a brief hug before stepping back, hands clasped neatly behind his back. Shall we proceed to breakfast? Jenny raised an eyebrow. Since when did you become a Victorian child? Breakfast it is. Downstairs she reached for the cupboard, but stopped mid-air. Everything was in the wrong place. Cereal boxes that had always lived on the left were now on the right. The coffee tin, once sacred, was perched high upon the top shelf, tantalisingly out of reach. They must have done a proper job of it, she reasoned. Shaking off her unease, she retrieved the cereal and the milk. As she placed them on the table, George frowned. I was rather hoping for eggs this morning. Eggs? What is this? A B&B? You'll be lucky to get toast tomorrow, Jenny said jokingly. The children exchanged a glance. Molly, usually a riot of energy, quietly poured her cereal. George, normally reserved, was leading the morning conversation like a small-town mayor. Something wasn't right. Then a knock at the door. She could just about hear James speaking in hushed tones. Ensure she's well. Keep me informed of anything unusual. Moments later, James reappeared, already dressed, looking smart and pristine with a forage cap under his arm. Kathy floated into the kitchen, radiant in a summery dress and proper heels. Jenny stared. Good grief, Kathy, are you off to a gala? You look amazing. I don't think I've ever seen you in heels. Kathy offered a cool smile. Eyes flickered over to Jenny, still in James's oversized joggers and t-shirt, hair resembling a bird's nest after a storm. I've come to walk the children to school, she said, with gentle crispness. How are you feeling this morning? That's wonderful, thank you, Jenny sighed, sinking into a chair. I'll finally be able to crack down with some work. Kathy's brow raised. Work? Kathy gave her a look that can only be described as politely patronising. I'll be back shortly after the school run. We can discuss things then. Jenny smirked. In those hills, why not just drive? Kathy placed her hand firm on Jenny's arm. In a voice barely above a whisper, she said, I'll return. We'll talk then. Jenny watched as Molly adjusted George's tie before they left. It was unusual, sweet perhaps, but deeply odd. James descended the stairs once more and kissed her cheek. I'll be back at lunchtime. Do be properly dressed when Kathy returns. She doesn't like disorder. Jenny stood rooted to the spot, the room spinning slightly. She felt as though she stepped into some bizarro English period drama. But the house was clean, the children were looked after, so she'd start her day by contacting work. She reached for her laptop. It wasn't on the table. Frowning, she checked the counter, then the sofa, then the kitchen cupboards. Gone. Actually, all the tech was gone. No laptops, no mobiles, not even the kids' tablets. Her heart started to hammer. Maybe I'm just still a bit out of it from yesterday. Trying to shake it off, she headed to the shower. Afterwards, she opened her wardrobe and then she froze. Dresses. Only dresses. No leggings, no comfy tank tops, no tatty flip-flops with a busted strap. Maybe they're all in the wash. Maybe I'm just still foggy from the sunstroke. She pulled one of the unfamiliar dresses and made her way to the kitchen. Reaching for the crockery, she paused again. The dishwasher was gone. Her stomach twisted. The coffee machine gone. The microwave missing. Even the electric kettle had been replaced with the whistling stop-toe version smugly sitting on the hob. She swallowed. How long have I been asleep? Had something happened while I was unconscious? Had James replaced every modern appliance? Or had they been burgled by the world's tidiest, most selectively minded thieves? Trying to stay calm, she pottered around the house. The comforting clutter of everyday life had vanished. No hair straighteners by the sink, no half-used dry shampoo, not even a tampon in the bathroom cupboard. Then Kathy returned.